going to try to show you real quick how to create a function for whatever it is you're creating so that you don't have to have the code inside of draw. All right, so let's just say we're creating a smiley face, and let's just say this ellipse is the main head. Let's just give it two eyes. So you kind of want to use these numbers because that's the center of this ellipse. And so I'm picturing an eye over here. So I don't know, I'm going to guess a few numbers. So maybe minus 50 pixels on the x-axis and minus 50 pixels on the y. So if this number 200 represents the x, so that's 200 minus 50 because I want to go left 50. And this is the y, so I want to also minus 50 from that. I don't know, let's just give it a diameter of 20 pixels. All right, so let's call that the left eye. And let's see what that looks like. Okay, great. So let's replicate this for the right eye, except instead of going this way 50 pixels, I want to go this way 50 pixels. So that means I have to add 50 to the x. The y still gets minus 50 though. So I am simply going to add 50 to that. So there we go. Now, we want to remove the code from draw and create our own function. And the way you do that is typing the word function. You have to give it a name, so let's call it smiley. You have to put those two parentheses and these two curly brackets, right? This is a setup for the function. We will put some stuff inside of the parentheses later. But right now, let's just put our smiley face in there. And you'll notice nothing happens. That's because the thing in draw is what will be drawn. Stuff in setup could be drawn too, but we have a background here. So we want all of our stuff above the background. And we never called smiley. So let's call that function. And once we call a function, there it is. The only problem is I cannot make it go to a different place. So to do that, well, let's go to our original code. And instead of thinking as the center of the head as 200, 200, let's think about it as x and y. All right, let's give it a default value of 200. This way, if somebody does not type in a number, it will automatically default to 200, 200. All right, so instead of this 200, I'm thinking about it as x. And we want to think about this 200 as y. So this is the x. This is the y. So notice that this is just x minus 50. All right, and in this case, you're thinking about x is 200. This is x. This is y. And there we go. All right, nothing changed. But if I enter numbers for x and y, it will override whatever is here. Right, so now I could have multiple of them. Let's do 100, 100 instead. And let's make this one, I don't know, let's say 300, 100. Right, so we could create as many of these as we like. Smiley, let's do 200, 300. Get one right in the middle down there. Pretty cool. And if you like, you can even give another parameter. If you're giving it default values, well, if you don't want to give this a default value, you need to put it in the front. So let's do, I don't know, eye size maybe. All right, so eye size will be this. So let's actually, instead of 20, let's do eye size. All right, eye size. Now notice what happens when I press play. Well, it just it goes all over the place, right? Because it's thinking that this 100 represents eye size. Now, why did I not put it in the back? Let's just take a little look and see. If I remove that from here, because it's just natural to have x and y in the front, and I put eye size in the back, you'll notice that this thing turns yellow. It says regular parameters should not come after default parameters. So you know what? I always just like to give my parameters a default value. This way there's no confusion, right? And so I don't have to put in a number for eye size. But if I did, let's do 70 for this first one, look what will happen. It will override that 20 and make these ellipse with a diameter of 70. All right, so I hope you learned something, and I will catch you on the next one.